Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to WCNC Charlotte To Go. So many of you still wondering ways you can help out after Hurricane Helene. And coming up in just a few minutes, we're going to have more on a pretty exciting concert that's going to happen right here in Charlotte coming up in a few weeks. It's going to serve as a big fundraiser for a lot of people.
A lot of great artists going to be there.
Right.
We're also this morning talking, though, about millions across Florida. They are bracing for impact as Hurricane Milton barrels toward the central part of the state. As preparations ramp up, FEMA is reassuring folks in both Florida and western North Carolina that it has enough money to get through the storm, while continuing recovery efforts for Hurricane Helene. FEMA officials also deny claims that relief money was used for migrants and say personnel will always be available to help with recovery regardless of budget issues. This is a live look now at the radar of Hurricane Milton. It's already one of the most powerful hurricanes we've ever seen in the Gulf of Mexico. Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy joins us now to break down how Milton's power has already exceeded expectations in this morning's Weather IQ. Chris?
Thanks a lot, Sarah. This is a historic storm because of how quickly it grew, how strong it got, and for the Tampa Bay area and the Gulf Coast in general will go down as history as one of the worst storms they've ever seen. So let's look at Milton dating back to yesterday. Now, you notice that tight eye wall, and I'll do the spin one more time to really clarify this. Figure skaters, if they're like this, they go slow. If they tighten their arms, they're going to spin fast. It's the same thing that goes in the centrifugal motion for a hurricane. So the tighter, the smaller that eye wall, the faster it can spin. So when we had that pinhole of an eye wall, by the way, storms like Maria and Andrew, those were pinhole eye wall storms, and you saw how strong those got. Historic Category 5 storms. Now, the eye wall has closed, so it's going through what's called the eye wall replacement, and it is going to eventually form that, I would say, over the next 12 hours, and then they'll re-intensify before it starts to weaken, heading into some wind shear. But let's talk about the Cat 5 stats. This is the 7th time in October we've had a Category 5 hurricane, and as far as M names, it joins some historic ones like Maria, as I mentioned, also Matthew formed in October. Milton is the second Category 5 we've also had this year, about 180 miles per hour, astronomical. Here's the big stat, though. From a 24-hour period, so that would be Sunday late afternoon to the evening, to yesterday around 5, so 5 p.m. to 5 p.m., in that 24 hours, the storm grew 95 miles per hour. Hurricane Wilma is the quickest growth that we've ever seen for rapid intensification in the Atlantic Basin history. Now, there's some bigger ones like Patricia that happened over the Pacific Ocean. There was 120, but this ties Wilma, and Wilma is all over the record books for strongest hurricanes. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. Wilma had a barometric pressure of 882 millibars. That is crazy. Anything in the 800s is historic. Well, Milton just barely dropped down to that. 897. Thank goodness it's not going to be at that strength once it makes landfall. Strongest hurricanes on record. Milton ties for the third overall. So 190 is Allen, then Dorian and Wilma and Gilbert, and the Labor Day storm of 1935 hit 185 miles per hour. But I want to talk about the historic tracks as well. This is also a really rare path. Most of the times, you see this all the time that it happens in the Caribbean. We saw that with Melda. Ian did this, where it kind of splits the divide between the Yucatan Peninsula and around Cuba. It's very rare to start in the western Gulf and head off towards the east. That's why this is such a big problem, because it's lifting up all that water and it's going to create a crazy storm surge. The only other time in history that the Tampa area, and it doesn't matter where the center is going to be, really anywhere in this cone is going to be affected by this, there's a bunch of those notches along the coast, those inlets that are just going to be completely inundated with water, where they're estimating anywhere from 10 to 15 feet. That pink line, October 25th, 1921, is the most historic storm. I read an article by the National Weather Service, brought to you by the National Hurricane Center. They call it the Forgotten Nightmare, the hurricane of 1921. Tampa was completely underwater at that point. It had an 11-foot storm surge. They predicted that could be higher with Milton. Also, the population back then for the Tampa area was 50,000 people. Now it's around 3 million. So I just really want to put that in perspective. This storm could be worse than 1921 that they're calling the Forgotten Nightmare and the worst in history. Because the most recent estimates, the way everything is clashing in, it is the perfect scenario for the worst case scenario off towards the west. This is a map of the storm surge. Those estimates up to 12 feet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see some areas about 12 to 15. That's the entirety of the city. The city's going to be underwater, but it's not just Tampa. It's surrounding areas that you're going to see down to Fort Myers are also going to get all that storm surge. What's interesting is Helene was about 100 miles off offshore. Well, it actually broke the record locally in Tampa for a 7.8-foot storm surge, and it didn't even make landfall. So I want to put this in perspective, and that's why you're hearing really harsh words like "if you stay, you will die" by the local mayor. This is a terrible situation. Just less than 2 weeks after we got
Here's the irony. We're talking about a storm back in 1921 hit Tampa. We talk about a storm in 1916 that hit Asheville. So, I mean, the devastation, we're talking about it now. It's hard to even comprehend it. But I think by Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, I mean, it's going to be destruction we have never seen before. Also, the storm was hit by Helene. There's debris that covers all of Tampa, every neighborhood that has not been cleared out. So with those winds, 125 miles an hour, that's going to pick all that up. They're going to be like missiles that blast the entire area. So that's another issue that they're going to be dealing with in the Tampa-St. Pete area. This is a much more concentric storm. It doesn't cover the territory that Helene did. That was the issue with Helene. There were tropical storm force winds with Helene that stretched out over 450 miles. One good thing about this, it won't cover as much territory, but the territory it covers, devastation.
Disaster.
And you're talking about things that we've never seen before. If you've ever been to Tampa and St. Pete, the amount of bridges that are over there, and look at the amount of bridges that we lost in the North Carolina mountains. And even though the rain isn't the biggest story here, they also went through a mini PRE, the precedented rain event, that they've been seeing several inches of rain before this. So that's kind of inundating the soils, so kind of this insult to injury. But Larry, you put it perfectly. We don't remember 1916 and 1921. Population has exponentially grown since then. So that's why when you say these numbers, 12 to 15 feet, what does that look like? Tampa's never seen this in our lifetime.
I mean, we'll just inundate it. We'll be flooding the entire city. It's Clearwater, St. Pete, Tampa, that all the way down.
All down,
Let's get the very latest on it. This, when you look at that monster storm, and it really is, this is scary. This is one, Chris was repeating what the mayor of Tampa said, this is life-threatening. You will die if you stay here. I mean, you hate to hear words about that. We're talking about, you can see winds 155 gusting to about 190 miles an hour. It's still a Category 4. Was a 5 yesterday, probably will become a 5 again. And then as it heads towards Tampa, you can see this is 2 p.m. Wednesday, 145-mile-an-hour winds. Makes landfall maybe as a Category 3. That's terrible. I mean, that's devastation beyond belief. Luckily, it's a fast-moving system that's out in the Atlantic Ocean and out of the picture probably by Thursday afternoon or evening. The other issue they're dealing with is the amount of rain that they're going to get. We're talking about anywhere from maybe 10 up to 15 inches of rainfall just north of Tampa. That would include the Daytona Beach area and pretty close to Orlando, Florida. You know, this area right in here is covered in lakes. So that means more flood conditions in Florida. Unfortunate situation down there. We'll take a look and show you the pathway of the storm system as it takes a northeast turn and on a beeline for Tampa. Then this is Wednesday afternoon, 1 o'clock. You can see the circulation right here. There's Tampa. That's probably about 150 miles from there. And then right around 4 a.m., maybe early on Thursday morning, about that time, unfortunately it comes early in the morning, people are asleep or awakened by this amazing storm system that tracks across the Tampa Bay area, then moves out into the Atlantic Ocean. The other issue Chris talked about is the storm surge, anywhere from maybe 9 to 15-foot storm surge. So just complete devastation. Once again, Hurricane Milton winds sustained right now at 155 gusts well over that. It will become a Category 5 again, probably within the next several hours. Doesn't matter. It's just going to be devastating what happens. A very sad situation with the people there in Florida.
So scary. Well, the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC are coming together to help those impacted by Helene here in our area. The team's partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank of Metrolina to pack 1,500 food boxes.
And some of the biggest names in country music coming together for a concert to benefit the communities impacted by Helene. Billy Strings, James Taylor, Luke Combs, Eric Church, all going to take the stage on October 26th at Bank of America Stadium for the Concert for Carolina. All proceeds will go to relief efforts across western North Carolina. Show tickets go on sale this Thursday.
It'll be a sellout. I think it's going to be amazing.
Yes. And if you're looking for ways to help people impacted, just scan that QR code right there on your screen for more information on donating or volunteering your time. But what a lineup for that show. I hope they sell out and we can really help so many people who desperately need it in our area.
75,000 people. When they added James Taylor to that, I thought, wow, that's amazing. I mean, he's beyond country music. He is a legend in the history of music.
That's right.
And to combine the two stories we're talking about here today with the hurricane coming on Thursday, I'm glad this concert is a few weeks from now because it will bring attention back to Helene. And we know we're in the news business. We know the news cycle. I think a lot can happen in a few weeks. And I'm glad that a few weeks from now we'll be bringing the attention back to Helene because the people up there are going to need it. And they're going to need the attention and resource that had come from a concert like that.
I'm just praying, you know, October is a big month. There have been so many major hurricanes in October. Praying, deeply praying that there's not any more to affect the United States in this time. Because the season does end November 30th, and a lot of this can happen well in the month of October.
Yeah, and just one final note, active evacuations going on there as well. But then there's actually some people, because we have a sister station in Tampa, that are actually coming to our news station here over the next few days, that they're going to be covering the storm from here as their station is being evacuated, just for instance.
Right? Yes. That out. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that some people learned at a meeting that are actually coming here. I know our producer, Jeb, his friend is coming up to stay with him. So a lot of people are even flocking to Charlotte here, just trying to get out.
Yeah.
All right. Keep it here for the latest, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.